The following may contain graphic or disturbing content that is not suitable for all audiences. The events discussed are presented for educational and analytical purposes only. All individuals involved are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Viewer discretion is advised.
Bong!
Yay!
We did it.
We did it.
23. 23?
Right, yeah, episode 23.
All right. It's a good number.
I'm tired.
Me too.
So what people don't understand is we record these weekly, and sometimes schedules conflict and make problems. And like today, I was at the range all day. Well, not all day, but for quite a few hours. And it is now 9:30 p.m. and we're recording this.
We are doing that. We do it for you guys.
It's all for you. Oh, my head's like all like, I got like crap all over me from the range. It's all over my face. I haven't taken a shower yet.
For you guys.
It's all for you.
Like and subscribe.
I'm eating lead from my face, getting it all over my, all for you. All right. Well, this is the podcast.
It is that.
And what people may or may not know, depending, I guess, when they come into things, is this is a military law enforcement security podcast. And so we cover topics and or videos, incidents, clips. I don't know, maybe products, services. We've done some, I did like the holsters, showed those one time, stickers.
The
Dubby, yeah, just different things, but relevant to military law enforcement security. And so that's what we do, and we try to keep things neutral and I would say not get too extreme.
Right.
You know, we talk about some things. Both of us are kind of in positions that, you know, we don't want to get too wild about. You are current law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
I am retired law enforcement, but I am in current security role.
Right.
So I went from military to law enforcement to security. And now I'm doing that. I'm going to be doing some side stuff too. But for the most part, I've been doing executive protection. And now I'm doing more of a uniform thing.
Mm-hmm.
Although not in uniform yet. Kind of. But we have a good range of experience. You're now in an investigative role versus a patrol or corrections or, you know, whatever. So you have an interesting point of view also. And I have the 14 years of law enforcement that allow me to look at things from that perspective too. The 4 years of military and then 6+ years of security.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then someday we'll have to have the boy kid on here.
Yeah.
Since he checks a couple boxes himself. Military and firefighter.
First responder. Yeah. But from a military standpoint, you can definitely provide some.
Yeah. He can just
input.
show like cooking videos for
chili. Yeah. Chili cook off or something. Yeah.
Sure, we can find some good videos of cats and trees.
Maybe. Yeah.
Like, I've been waiting my whole life.
Maybe get him on here and have him cook some chili, and we'll just be like,
that's a 10.
That's it. Oh, people won't know what that is, but
I know.
Look it up.
That's fine.
Look up the video. It's a 10. I don't even know how to describe that, but it's pretty funny. Yeah. So we have the Discord, we have the socials, everything's for free. Just hop on and, you know, interact and reply, like, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Whatever you don't want to do, that's cool too.
But remember, we do it for you.
We do it for you.
We're doing it for you.
pain and suffering for you. So, yeah, I mean, we have all those things. Definitely take a look at all those things, and maybe, there's some daily content that goes on there. Maybe you like that stuff. And so that'll be kind of fun for you to dive into, add your input, things like that. On Discord, if you can add, like your own clip, you see something, or maybe you recorded it, or something you want us to cover, you can post and then talk about it, add your input. Maybe we'll bring you on as a guest or something like that. And then
I am partial to animal related videos.
You do like the animal stuff. Yep. Dogs and
emus,
goats, and all that stuff we've showed before. Funny raccoon videos.
I know. Or opossums. Come on, guys.
Possums or
hippos, koalas,
fluffy cows.
Highlands. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Elephants. Come on. I'm not picky, guys.
Elephants attacking people.
It's my patrol elephant.
Right. An E9. But anyway, last week we had an episode about guns. So people with guns, armed with guns, things
Called
like
it
that.
Running and gunning.
We didn't.
I know.
But we could have. This week, so just to kind of recap, I guess, first, before we talk about this week, we did the Snohomish. That was the snow rescue of the two dummies that were on the mountain.
Right.
And the helicopter had to lower down and rescue them.
Guys, you're on skis. Just get down.
Yeah, it was
it's like your whole purpose.
They weren't injured. The story goes they weren't injured, and they brought them back to their vehicle. So just go. Just go,
man.
Just go, man. That's a reference to Dumb and Dumber. Tucson, that was the one where the two juveniles were in the car. The officer contacted them. They had a bunch of guns.
Mm-hmm.
We did that one. Richfield was the car prowler. That was the guy that he chases, and there's two cops, and then the one goes to like push him. He falls down. He pulls the gun. He shoots the officer like through the wrist or something.
Right, and the up close body worn camera is like, Rrr.
Yeah, it's like the gun is in his face in the body cam. So if you haven't seen that, definitely go check out last week's episode 22 and watch that. If you want to watch the full video, go find that. One of these days, probably going to start linking, these clips that you can get the raw video and watch the raw video. Or, there are these cop kind of profiles or accounts or pages or whatever that just post these, repost these videos.
Mm-hmm.
They just get the video from the police department and then they repost it and then they throw their name on it. I'm like, that's pretty lame, but we could do that. We could post all that stuff in raw form so that you can watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to put my name on it, but we can post those things so you guys can catch them, and maybe that'll be useful. Let us know. If that's the case, I'll start doing it. Nashville, that was the school shooting.
Oh, yeah.
That was the one where they go up the stairs, go up to like the second floor, go down the hallway, and as they turn the corner, the shooter's like at the window, so they shoot the shooter.
Yep.
Remember that one?
I do.
And then the FSU, that was the motorcycle cop.
Yeah, with that long shot.
Long shot with several rounds, but he hits the bad guy in the face, like kind of like the mouth or something, and puts him down. He's an active shooter. So, yeah, everybody had guns, except maybe the skiers had guns. I don't know, but they didn't have guns on the video. But anyway, this week's episode,
I'm excited to hear since I sent you that video and you're like, it's in the
it was already
episode.
It was already on the episode. Yeah, I had already planned it. I'm calling this episode Reasonable Inappropriate Force.
Oh, okay.
So you can
was like, F around and find out.
Yeah, fucking idiots or something. And that's going to make more sense once we get into that video. People are like, what the hell are you talking about? Audio listeners, definitely you will want to see some of these clips. There's going to be 3 of them. Kind of a short number of clips compared to previous episodes, because we're going to have a very long discussion.
Oh.
Yep. And so the point here is to discuss reasonable and appropriate force. And that applies to civilians and that applies to law enforcement. Now, civilianized world, you can be going down the street. There's a good prime example of, I forget what the mall is called, but it was an active shooter. He's shooting with a rifle, and then a civilian takes his gun out, the CCW, shoots bad guy from very far away, kind of like, seemed like the distance the motorcycle guy was shooting, and puts the shooter down. But you have to know, if you're going to get into something, you got to know that your physical force or your deadly force is reasonable and appropriate and lawful.
Right. You can't just, hey, somebody's stealing my car, so I'm going to shoot them. This is a property crime.
Right. And, there's several of those videos where somebody runs out and they're like, bang, 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 and there's a running away. They're still shooting up guys. And so you need to have things reasonable and appropriate. Now, I should preface everything with, this is not, has never been, never will be, a legal podcast in the sense that we are legal experts talking about the legalities of things and giving legal advice.
Yeah, we're not that.
We're not that. We're not going to be that. Even if I was a lawyer, it wouldn't be that, because I would not want to be caught up in giving legal advice to people. I may recommend, make some opinions and say, I wouldn't do that, or I wouldn't do this, or, whatever. But I will never, you will never, we will never give legal advice and say, this is how you do it, or this is what you're legally allowed to do, so this is what you should do. You have to make the determination yourself, whether it's, again, physical force or deadly force, kind of encounters. And so I have to preface this whole thing with that. With that, we will roll into the first discussion. Now, the discussion is on the use of force, but to highlight that, I have to use an example. And what better example to use than the Carmelo Anthony trial that just happened? And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about kind of what happened in the trial, what all went down, the reactions that people had, what they're saying and what the complaints are and whatever. And then we're going to get into use of force laws. And we're going to talk about, again, from the citizen side, and then we're going to talk about the law enforcement side. And then when we're done with that, then we're going to show some examples. And the examples we're going to have to look at and go, was that reasonable and appropriate? And again, our opinions based on what we know and understand of things is, again, not legal advice and not expert information to the point where what we say goes. I highly suggest people go out, look into things themselves, discuss things themselves, research, do all that stuff, and then they can figure it out. Don't just take one person's word. And you can find a ton of opinionated people out there, and even people that are like, I'm an expert because I did 5 years of law enforcement, whatever. There's going to be all these people out there with their own opinions. Just take that one, take that one, take that one, start weighing them together, start doing some research, use AI, use websites, use legal websites, use, pull out a legal book, whatever it is, look into things. Don't just determine based on what you see or hear. But does that make sense?
It does. And it kind of reminded me of, in my former role, I was at a coffee with the cops. And we had a special guest from the district attorney's office. And we had a guy grilling us about, he's a gun owner, and I want to use my gun, and I'm just going to pull my gun on everybody. I want to pull it on this guy because he was yelling at me. It just went down the rabbit hole. And what she told him is, whatever state, city you live in, pull up the self-defense laws and read it. Don't interpret it. skewed in your opinion, read it how it is written.
Yes. And exactly as it's written is exactly how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
So you go and shoot somebody, how the law is written is going to base whether or not they charge you and whether or not you go to trial and whether or not you're guilty or not guilty, which is why we're going to talk about that trial. But we are not national experts.
No.
So we're not going to talk about Texas law. We're just going to talk about some reasonable and appropriateness of some things. I am going to talk about our state law, Colorado specifically, as it applies to some of these things that we're going to see and the levels of which things are acceptable and not acceptable and things like that. But you need to look up your own states. You need to look up your own counties, your own cities, your own municipalities, whatever.
Right, because your city, your county might be more strict than your state.
Could be.
Or it could be opposite.
Right. And could be way different, vastly different than ours. And so just keep that in mind as you go forward and go through the rest of this episode. So we are going to pull up the trial information. I've got kind of like a bunch of stuff on my screen. So we're going to start talking about the trial and then we're going to go from there. All right. So these are two guys. So you have Carmelo Anthony, and then you have Austin Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. These are the two that had kind of part of this story. And what we're going to talk about is what happened, how it happened, why it happened, and then potentially our opinions on legalities based on what we know. Now, this one and this one are at a track meet. It's raining, as it does, I guess, in Texas from time to time. And because it was raining, Carmelo goes and sits under the tent that belongs to Austin's team. Not his team, not Carmelo's, but Austin's team. Now he goes and sits under this tent. The rain apparently stops. And people are like, who's this guy? He's not part of the team. He is part of some other team. So they go over and say, hey, you need to leave. This is our tent. This is not your tent, which I fully get, for whatever reason. Your area is your area. And so they tell him he needs to go. Now, they tell him several times, you need to go, you need to go, you need to go. I think I heard at some point during the trial, like 20 times he was told to leave. And he didn't. Okay. Now, does that become trespass or I don't know. Not really. But I fully understand your area, and that's kind of where your team sits. Those are your seats. Those are your, whatever. It's kind of like a baseball game, the dugout. You have like one team there and one team there. They're like the teams don't go sit with each other.
Mm-hmm.
They don't go sit next to each other. They stay to their side. And then if they go over there, it's probably a fight. They're all beating each other up. But they're not going to intermingle. Okay. So I fully understand that from a sports standpoint. Football, team is on one side, other team's on the other side. Or if it's a weird kind of bleacher situation, they might have one team on one end of the field, one team on the other end of the field.
Hey, why is this guy in our locker room from the other team?
Why is this guy over here? So anyway, I fully understand that. And I fully understand the desire to tell him to leave. So this Austin character decides to go over and say, hey, look, you need to leave because this is our area. Carmelo says no. Again, over a dozen times. Like I said, up to potentially 20. He's told to leave. And Carmelo replies back with, I'm assuming because of the stance that the other, person took, maybe it looked like it was going towards something physical. he tells Austin, put your hands on me and see what happens. Something to that effect. That's the quote. Now, Austin at some point, apparently, based on witnesses, says, look, I'm not going to fight you, but you need to leave. Ends up pushing him. So you have Austin pushes Carmelo.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of information on the internet. There's a lot of misinformation on the internet that talks about like chokeholds and all sorts of nonsense. But it seems like, based on the testimony, it was a push. Now, the immediate response by Carmelo is to stab Austin. So, push, stab, almost like simultaneously, apparently. I wasn't there. I wasn't in the trial. So I'm just going off of information that I've seen in several locations that are, kind of sources that I believe. I'm not looking at right wing, left wing, different places because they're all garbage. There's a bunch of talk of like Carmelo was suspended, for having a knife before. He wasn't supposed to be at the track meet, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. None of that's been kind of substantiated. It's just one side says one thing, one side says something else.
Sure.
Either way. And then there was this whole like misinformation campaign of it wasn't a knife, it was a cleat sharpener. But everybody's saying that it was a black folding knife that was roughly 3.5 inches. So whatever it was a stabby type of object.
Used in a stabby
way that apparently, and again, I don't have access to autopsy stuff. I'm just going off of what I heard. Apparently cut the right part of his heart, which caused him to die fairly quick. I mean, he can, from something like that or get shot or whatever, you can die very fast. Like maybe 30 seconds, a minute, if you're lucky. It sounds like he died pretty quick. He kind of like stumbled around, kind of made some sounds and said a few words and then collapsed. His brother was holding him, twin brother, and then he dies. Now, Carmelo goes away, kind of like leaves the scene.
Now he leaves the tent.
He leaves the tent now. He goes to like the other end of the field, other end of the track. And people are like, hey, he's over there. Somebody had said, don't go anywhere. I don't know where the knife went, like all this stuff. There's a lot of information that people don't really know for sure because they sequestered everything.
Well, it had to have been a chaotic scene.
Right. And so a police officer approaches him, puts him at gunpoint or whatever, takes him into custody. And when he takes him into custody, he tells the police officer, I was protecting myself. And the officer like noted all this in his report. And then he said, he put his hands on me. I told him not to. Okay. Now, keep in mind, these two had never met each other. And it's essentially irrelevant, the past history of Anthony. You can say he was bullied every day, all these different things. This is a person he's never met. So I don't know that I put any weight in any of that. I don't know that that has any bearing on anything, but, and I've heard all that stuff. Those are all rumors running around the internet. Mm-hmm. This is just stuff that I know from reliable sources. So Carmelo Anthony goes to trial. He's charged with murder because he admits to stabbing him. The circumstances do not look like self-defense, which is why a prosecutor will say, let's go ahead and prosecute. Mm-hmm. They'll prove charges. The detective presents the charges. As you're well aware, the prosecutor will accept charges. They will build a case. They will go to trial. They will do all that. Now they're going to base this not on just what he says, but all the witnesses, all the footage, all the evidence, all the different things. The weapon, they're going to see it. They're going to look at it. Is it appropriate to be used in self-defense in this specific incident? And is it even reasonable and appropriate to have a knife at school? So all of that's going to come into play. They are going to charge him with murder, and he's going to go to trial. Now, the trial, I wouldn't say went quickly, although it did, but I wouldn't say it was unreasonably quick. I think Texas is just Texas. Kind of like don't fuck around. So they had this trial, they did this trial, and they completed the trial fairly quick. Now, when they first were getting things going, well, and before I dive into that, he's found guilty of the murder. He is sentenced to 35 years, eligible for parole in 17 and a half. Immediately they file an appeal, which I'm not surprised. They always do. Like 99% of the time, they will try to appeal whatever the outcome of a trial is if they don't like it. So the response from the get-go was this was racially motivated, in the sense that they were charging him because he's black and this one's white. Now, I don't see that. I look at this from, although I might be white, I don't look at this as race. I look at this as facts, state law, and I can apply that to our state law, what's reasonable and appropriate. And I can tell you, if I push you, you cannot kill me.
Yeah.
So I push you.
Agree.
Now, if you're standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon and I push you to push you off the edge, or like a subway train car is coming and you're on the edge of the tracks and I try to push you in front of it, could there be argument there? Yeah. But you're in an area you're not supposed to be in. You're told numerous times to leave. You're pushed once, apparently. And your response was to stab. That is not reasonable and appropriate response. Deadly force is not reasonable and appropriate because you should not have had fear of serious bodily injury or death from a push. Now, if he pushed him and said, I am going to effing kill you, I'm going to strangle you, I'm going to, whatever, and then goes for his throat, then yeah, maybe he can argue that.
Or had something in his hand, like a blunt object, or
he had a weapon, yeah, like a baseball bat, and he's swinging it at him or whatever.
Whatever they use in track meets.
Yeah, I don't know, javelins maybe or something. I don't know. But anyway, none of that occurred. So the racial complaint. And this is I would say for the most part, people agree that the trial occurred, that the guilty plea, was rendered. Some people are okay with the 35 years. Some people think should have been more. Personally, I mean, I'm one of these people that you kill somebody unlawfully, an innocent person, you should probably go away for a long time. I don't think you should get to have a free life when you took a life unlawfully. So he could have gotten 99 years. So it was 5 to 99 was the range. Now, what was weird about this, and only weird because our system doesn't do this, but apparently in Texas, the jury decides the sentence.
And like immediately.
Well, in this one, yeah, everything was done same day. But I've never known a jury to decide. It's usually the judge. Like they go away and then they come back for sentencing and then they do sentencing. And so for me, that was weird. I'm not saying it's weird like, it's unlawful or, racially motivated or whatever. I'm just saying that's just weird to me because it's not something I'm used to. And so I would feel like a third person, maybe a different judge, should be the one to determine, based on the facts of the case, based on what's found guilty, not guilty, whatever. There may be 100 charges, whatever's guilty. Hey, this is what was guilty. They should determine the time that they go away.
Mm-hmm.
You show a jury a bunch of stuff, and I think they showed like the autopsy photos and things. I think you could cause a jury to get very upset, very angry,
Yeah.
very, I wouldn't say vengeful, but you could get them very upset at a suspect, and then ultimately they get 99 years. And it's like, ouch. So that didn't happen here. It could have. And if you're talking racially motivated, it should have. It should have been 50, 75, 100, whatever, a lot more than 35. So I don't buy that. Now, the biggest complaint and the biggest kind of headline in all of the news, because the news is garbage,
Mm-hmm.
was there's no black jurors on the jury. Okay. And they all made it very clear that this is a racial injustice. So you have a bunch of people out in the world that see this, and they believe what they see over and over and over. Every cop movie, every cop show is all about crooked cops. And when you tell people all cops are crooked, eventually they're going to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you tell people in every news headline, because you're trying to get likes, follows, subscribers, hits, whatever, that this is all racially motivated, it gets people energized,
Riled up.
emotional. Yeah. And that's where they're going to get all of their interactions. So that's what they did. I think the news media is trash, like your standard mainstream news media. I think they're all garbage. I don't think there's one good one out there. Biased reporting is gone. And I think that's a shame. I don't think that should be happening. But anyway, let's put some things in perspective. Now, Collin County, which is where the trial was,
Mm-hmm.
is comprised of 12% black people. Texas has somewhere between 12 and 14% black people.
Okay.
They had multiple jurors, prospective jurors, they send out the notice and people come in. They had multiple people show up that were black. One of them specifically stated when they were asked, he said he'd have a hard time putting a brother in jail. And so he was dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously a racial kind of bias, if you will. So they picked 12 jurors from 600 that showed up. Statistically speaking, that number should be majority white. When you look at 12%
Mm-hmm.
is black. The courts do not know who is white or black. They send out a jury notice. The juror shows up, assuming they show up. Some people don't show up. They show up. That's when they get to see if they're white or black or Hispanic or Asian or whatever. So they had no idea. They didn't just send notices to white people, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They had no idea. So the racial bias, the racial injustice that they say has been done here is just not true. It's not there. So what ended up happening was the jury trial went through. The 12 jurors get to decide guilty, not guilty. They say guilty, and he gets 35 out of 99 years, not even half.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that sounds like the system was working as it was supposed to. Now, you can argue all day long. You can throw stats around or whatever about injustices, one race versus another, whatever. You can also throw stats around about who commits the most crime and all these different things. We're not going to get into that. This is not a race podcast. What I'm saying is The evidence in the case was presented to the jury. The jury looked at it, determined that the use of force that he used was not reasonable and appropriate to what happened, which is why he's guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
I would have said the same thing. I would have looked at that and said guilty. Again, I would have been like, 35 is not enough. He's going to get out. He's going to be, 50 something, and I just feel like you get to still live another 40 years, give or take, maybe. While this one over here doesn't live at all. And his brother lives without him. His family lives without all this stuff. So I just don't think 35 is enough. And I would say that if this guy was white, Hispanic, black, Asian, whatever, I don't care about race. Doesn't bother me. So anyway, now let's talk about what is reasonable and what is appropriate. Let's talk about what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And again, I highly encourage you to seek out your local laws. These are just laws that apply to us here and those who live here. And this just explains what we're allowed to do. But it's worth noting, nationwide, and I did a search and I said, how many states nationwide require reasonable and appropriateness in uses of force, citizens and police? It said every state. So this is not just like in some places. This reasonable and appropriateness needs to be kind of hit on in every state, no matter where you're at. Just seek out your local laws, figure out what they define as reasonable and appropriate, what you're allowed and not allowed to do, but we're going to cover at least Colorado. So let's talk about, and then we're going to cover these little clips, the use of physical force in defense. And that can be in defense of you or a third person.
Mm-hmm.
So it says you're justified in using physical force. This is 18-1-704. Upon another person in order to defend yourself or a third person from what you reasonably believe to be the use or imminent use of unlawful physical force by the other person. And you may use a degree of force which you reasonably believe to be necessary for that purpose. Again, I push you, you cannot stab me. It's not reasonable and appropriate. Again, you're at the edge of the Grand Canyon. I push you and say, I'm going to fucking kill you. And you stab me to defend yourself and save yourself. Makes more sense.
Right.
So just understand that the level of force has to be reasonable and appropriate. And so when you present this information to a jury, the jury needs to go, I believe that was reasonable and appropriate, and it fits the statute, whatever the local statute is. And yes, they are not guilty. Okay. Now, deadly force may be used only if a person reasonably believes a lesser degree of force is inadequate. So if I see a person down the road, they have a knife out, and they're like, I'm going to stab this person across the street 100 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
And I just decide to plow them down with the car to defend that other person. Probably not reasonable and appropriate, and probably could have used a different level of force.
Mm-hmm.
I may have gone to my CCW and kind of used some verbal commands and try to get him to drop the knife. I might have done something else. So understand that it has to be reasonable and that a lesser degree of force is inadequate. And then it says, the person has reasonable grounds to believe and does believe that he or another person, he or she, is in imminent danger of being killed or receiving great bodily injury. We call that serious bodily injury, so SBI here. Other states have different versions of whatever they call great bodily injury. Now it says, or the other person is using or reasonably appears about to use physical force against an occupant of a dwelling or business while committing a burglary. So I break into a house, I go to attack someone, kind of like home invasion. They can use lethal force, deadly force against me. And then it says, or the person is committing or reasonably appears to commit kidnapping, robbery, or sex assault. So I'm holding someone down, I'm beating on them, and I'm trying to take off their clothes because I'm committing a sex assault. And you see that, you're allowed to use deadly force. In that case, you are not justified in using physical force with the intent to cause bodily injury or death to another person. They provoke the use of unlawful force. So that means they come up to me, push me first, and then I push them back, and then they pull out a knife, and they're the aggressor on me. I need to be able to defend myself legally. They can't kill me and call it self-defense. They started it. They pushed me, then they took the knife out on me. I was going to defend myself. You killed me. That's not reasonable.
Right.
And then it says, it's like an or. It says he or she is the initial aggressor. And then they withdraw, state their intent, and then are attacked. So basically, I go be the aggressor and I push somebody down. And I'm beating on. And then I get up. They pull a knife. I run away. And I'm like, hey, I don't want any more of this. Whatever. Yes, I was the initial aggressor. I was the person that started it. It would not be unlawful to use physical force or deadly force, right? They've removed themselves. So had Carmelo walked away in this kind of using our local statutes, he walked away and then Austin attacked him. Austin could not claim self-defense because he's now the aggressor. The other guy has pulled himself out of the situation, but then he attacks him. Now, let's talk about law enforcement. Specifically, 18-10707 deals with peace officers, police officers. It says in carrying out their duties, they shall apply non-violent means when possible before resorting to the use of physical force. They may use physical force only if non-violent means would be ineffective in effecting the arrest, preventing the escape, or preventing an imminent threat of injury to the peace officer or another person. So, I use verbal commands. I use a taser. I use some other means that I have at my disposal.
Baton.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Anything that other than deadly force, right? And I use kind of verbal, light grabbing, thing like that before I start striking and doing, ramping up the use of force. So the law enforcement officer has that necessity. That doesn't say they always. It says shall apply non-violent means when possible. So when we watch these videos of law enforcement officers, and this is kind of a nationwide standard, when possible, when able, when, all these different kind of similar statements.
Mm-hmm.
If I go contact somebody and they immediately pull the knife and they come at me, I don't have time to say, hey, sir, can you please put down that knife? That is scary. And I'm in fear for my life. And if you don't do that, I'm going to do 13 other things first before I then shoot you.
Right. But that almost seems like the expectation that society has.
Yes.
That officer should have used CIT.
Right. Or a taser. Why'd they shoot him?
They should have shot it out of his hand.
Yeah. Shoot him in the knee or whatever. That's not how real life works.
Shoot his tires out.
Right. So that's not how real life works. That's not even how the laws are written. So go, investigate your local laws. They apply. This is ours. This is what they say. Now, we have a new edition. It's not really worth mentioning, but I'm going to mention it anyway, just because it's new and some people may not have heard of it. It doesn't apply to the videos or anything we're going to watch today, but It says peace officers shall not use, direct, or unduly influence the use of ketamine on another person, nor compel, direct, unduly influence an emergency medical service provider to administer ketamine. I have never, in all my years of law enforcement, all my years of security, all my years of whatever, have I ever seen an officer tell an EMT to drug them. I've never seen an EMT ask a police officer,
should I do that?
should I drug them? I have seen officers say, you guys got to do something, not saying ketamine, but just, you got to do something. And the EMTs say, no, well, we're not going to do anything. We'll keep him strapped down. He's going to scream and yell. He's going to get through it, whatever. Okay.
I have been yelled at by EMTs when they were trying to administer something and this person was attacking all of us. Like, hold him down.
Right.
I can't get it.
And that was always fine. But now what they're saying is that officers cannot direct the use of this stuff. So I get it, because we had that one person, and this is the kind of stuff that happens nationwide, is one incident. This isn't happening every day. Officers are not giving ketamine. They're not telling EMTs to give ketamine. That stuff just doesn't happen. But one time an EMT gives it to them, they die. And suddenly it's like this epidemic, this, huge problem, injustice. It's this corrupt thing they need to now put into law to say it's not allowed. So anyway, I just figured I'd throw that in there. Now, what it says is, when physical force is used, a peace officer shall not use deadly force to apprehend a person who is suspected of only a minor or nonviolent offense. Okay. And that's just for the, as they're running away, traffic stop, they get out of the car as you go to pull them over, they run, and as they're running, you shoot them in the back. Okay. Not good. Don't do that.
Stealing some Tide Pods from Target, just running.
Yeah,
don't do it.
Shoplift, and there's a video out there of a shoplifting, and then the security guard ends up shooting the person. And it's like, don't do that. Okay. It says, use only a degree of force consistent with the minimization of injury to others. It says, ensure that the assistance and medical aid are rendered to any injured or affected person as soon as practical. Practical. So if I shoot as a law enforcement officer, which I'm not, but I'm just saying, as a law enforcement officer, I shoot somebody in their car because they were ramming me and they're trying to kill me. And now they're hurt in the car. There's several other people in the car. I am not expected to immediately run up and render aid. I have got to order everybody out. I've got to get that car cleared. I have to get this person secured. Then I can render medical aid. And that's what's expected. Okay. But everybody else is like, oh, why is it taking so long? Why am I watching this video? And 30 seconds has gone by and they haven't helped him or called an ambulance. They probably have called an ambulance. You just can't hear it. And you can't hear jack crap on body cameras. But it's when practical. And then it says, ensure that any identified relatives or next of kin who've sustained serious bodily injury or death are notified as soon as practical. Cool. Practical. So again, officers getting involved in a shooting. So you look back at that ICE shooting with the lady she hits the ICE agent. He shoots her. She crashes. They go to render aid. They're like, one person was like running to grab a bag and they run a bag up. They've already called paramedics. So they're already doing what they're supposed to. The wife or whatever is there. She's freaking out. She's trying to run in there. They're like, you need to stay back. When it's practical, when it's reasonable, they're going to let her know what's going on. We understand that. Now, it says, so that's use of force, physical force. A peace officer is justified in using deadly physical force to make an arrest only when other means of apprehension are unreasonable given the circumstances. You rob a store, you come out, you're holding a gun to the person's head. I am not going to, if I was a law enforcement officer, which I'm not, I am not going to tase you, hit you with a 40, OC spray you, whatever, because you're standing this close with gun pressed up against the head of the victim, the hostage. And it is not reasonable that an officer not take this shot. So you're holding this person and the head kind of pops out from the side and you take a headshot and you kill him. That's reasonable because of the circumstances we got going on here. And there was no time, space, whatever to use other means. Make sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then it says the arrest is for a felony involving conduct, including the use or threatened use of deadly force. So there needs to be something in there to warrant deadly force. So if I am in a car and I drive straight at the law enforcement officer, that is deadly force, utilizing a vehicle as force, as a weapon. They are justified. Many policies, many departments are now saying you do not shoot into moving vehicles, but by law, that would be justified in this case. Again, I'm not going to be able to tase the driver, not going to be able to OC the driver, not going to be able to 40 the driver, not going to be able to do all these things. I may or may not be able to jump out of the way. So my only option is deadly force on the driver. Okay. And then it says the suspect poses an imminent or immediate threat of death or serious bodily injury to the peace officer or another person. Again, same scenario. Car's coming at me. That is a reasonable and appropriate response because that is a deadly force on me. Same situation. Car's driving towards a partner and you take the shot on the driver. We saw that in the video with the lady in the van.
The embankment.
Yep. So she hits the police officer, throws him 10, 15 feet or whatever, and the other officer starts shooting her because it's reasonable and appropriate to think she may have just killed that guy or will then continue forward and further kill, finish the job. And it's reasonable to defend a third person with lethal force by using lethal force. And then it also says the force employed does not create a substantial risk of injury to other people. So it's good to know that in order to use lethal force, taking the headshot on the hostage taker, you need to be able to take that shot. You can't just go and just hope one of those rounds hits the right head and doesn't hit your hostage. That would be an unreasonable use of force, deadly force. So all that said, understand, as I said before, all 50 states have something similar to this. I highly recommend everybody look it up, learn it, apply it, correctly in your day-to-day life if something comes up. Law enforcement officers are trained in this extensively. And I was trained extensively in use of force, terminology, law, reasonableness, appropriateness. I did, virtual simulators. I did all these different things, real scenarios with actors, all these things. And then I've even trained people, citizens and other law enforcement officers on uses of force, deadly force, all that. Okay. So I highly recommend people educate themselves and determine, based on what they're seeing out in the world, to include the Carmelo Anthony trial, what's reasonable and what's not. And what he did was unreasonable to me. Now, let's look at 3 scenarios of force, and we're going to determine, based on what we see, this is where your clip's going to come in.
Oh, yeah.
Is this a reasonable and appropriate level of force?
Well, and just before you play those, I think the Carmelo Anthony and trial, that was a tough one because they're kids, right? And we get emotional over kids.
Yeah.
And so it's important to take that emotion that brings out in us, and look at the facts and look at the law and approach it from the perspective of what is the law.
Right. And there was some lady on the news, or like right after the verdict was read, screaming at the reporters in the microphone about what do I tell my kids? What do I tell my sons? My black kids that they can't even walk away anymore. Tell them to walk away.
Yeah.
Tell them don't stab people
that push you.
Tell them don't use reasonable levels in unnecessary levels of force on other people. Show them the statutes, your local statutes, and tell them what is reasonable and appropriate. We've told our kids, or at least I have, if somebody attacks you, defend yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Reasonable and appropriate force. If somebody goes to swing at you, you block it. If you need to swing back to disable the threat, get away from the threat, do that. But you don't stab them. You don't shoot them. There is another case. We didn't cover it, but it was a person that had been bullied multiple times by a specific person they knew. And in that case, they were backed into kind of like a corner of a bathroom, like inside a bathroom. Several people attacked him, including this person. Mm-hmm. Struck him numerous times, did all these things, and then he stabs the attacker. So it's a very similar case to Carmelo, except it's not at all. These circumstances are completely different. And people are saying that, why was that different? Why was he treated and charged differently than Carmelo was? Because the circumstances were different. Mm-hmm. You're talking about someone that's been abused by the same person. They have history. He knows that and the person made threats like, I'm going to find you and I'm going to kill you. Like all these different things. Finds him, backs him into a corner, assaults him, multiple people, and he stabs, and he got charged with manslaughter, which is a lesser charge than murder. So it has to do with the circumstances. Teach your kids what's reasonable and appropriate. And if you need somebody who is more professional, educated, expert, whatever you want to call it, but somebody that's trained, find somebody to teach your kids.
Yeah.
Don't just wing it. And certainly don't tell them there's nothing you can do other than stab and kill people. Because that's not the response.
Right. So learn it yourself before you teach it to your kids.
Correct. So let's move to Pasadena. This occurred September 7th of last year.
This made me so mad. I did not think this was real.
It's real, and there's no audio, unfortunately. It is a dash cam view of a police car as a law enforcement officer is driving through a garage. All the officers kind of like loading up their cars to start shift. The officer rolls up to another one, and then this happens. So what you've got is the view for our listeners. Officer number 1 outside the vehicle points his gun at the driver.
Who does that?
Right. He did.
Right.
So dummy number 1 points gun at driver, who is number 2. Now, in response, driver number 2 points his gun at officer number 1 and then shoots him. Shoots him in the shoulder. And then gets out, and they're all like trying to render aid, and there's other people that are coming over like, what's going on? What's going on? Probably heard the gunshot. It was muffled, but it was through the windshield. You can see the shattered windshield.
Yeah.
So I managed to go through the windshield, hit him in the shoulder, because apparently it was an accident. It wasn't like intentional. But let's talk about intent. Now, if I can replay this. So we're pulling up.
Bunch of Farvas.
Yeah, this idiot has rank of some kind because it's on his arm. But he immediately kind of squares off, draws his weapon, and points it at the driver. It seems like they know each other and may or may not have done this stupid nonsense before.
Right. And this chucklehead next to him is like, again.
This guy just doesn't have any problem with what's going on here. So what that means is there's some familiarity here.
Yeah, this has happened before.
This has probably happened before, but it's not like this driver is in fear of their life and they're defending themselves. So the use of force by this person is not reasonable and appropriate. It's not reasonable and appropriate to shoot the fellow police officer because you're in fear for your life when it seems like you two idiots know each other and that this may or may not have occurred before. But he's done aiming, the other one draws, and he stands like, hey, now it's your turn to aim at me. He doesn't like laugh and then just kind of like walk over and, to the driver's side and like, haha, that was funny, huh? This is like their thing, maybe, of I'm going to point at you, you point at me. Okay, cool. And so the use of force here is not reasonable and appropriate.
And it's so delayed.
Yeah, it was pretty delayed.
And then he jumps. I assume this is this guy with the freaking sunglasses. Stop wearing your sunglasses on the back of your fucking heads.
Yes.
You look stupid. You are not End of Watch. You are stupid.
Even if you were in the movie End of Watch, you're still stupid.
It looks ridiculous.
It does. So anyway, not what I would consider reasonable and appropriate.
No.
Now let's say.
I was infuriated.
Let's turn the scenario around a little bit because the point is here to educate and learn. Let's say that was a traffic that was on the street, red light, driver gets out, points his gun at driver behind him. And the person behind him fires through the windshield and hits him. Same kind of scenario. But with the reasonable and appropriateness of the use of force would differ because they don't know this person. It's another civilian that we've never had contact with. We don't have a relationship with. They get out, pointed at me. I'm going to feel like I'm in danger.
This is like every day on any road in our state.
Right. But what I'm saying is that would be a reasonable and appropriate response to shoot that person fearing for your life. And so that makes sense to me. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to Hernando County. Now in Hernando County, they get a 911 call of a disturbance where a lady is at a business or whatever. They want her trespass. She's being crazy and erratic. When the officers get there, she's already like taken off all her clothes, sort of. And the officers contact her, hook her up, and throw her in the car. When they put her in the car, this is what happens. This one has audio. Yeah. So for our listeners, the thumping sound is her smashing her face against the door window of the patrol car.
And we've all had a call like that.
We have all dealt with this. I once had somebody doing that, and I was like, yeah, you're just going to knock, and then they knocked themselves out. And I was like, oh my God. And it wasn't something I could have stopped. I was actually in the vehicle. I think I was moving.
Right.
And I had to like stop, jump out, check on them. And then I was like, called the dispatch. I said, hey, we need an ambulance here. This person just knocked themselves out. So in this case, she's smashing her head, and the officer needs to kind of stop that. So the deputy is going to open the door.
Oh.
Yeah. So she goes to smash her head again, and he opens the door at the right time, and she goes flying out of the car. But he catches her. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to get her back in the car, and he needs to secure her so she can stop hurting herself. Yeah.
In there.
This just happened.
In there.
6/9 of 26. All right. So he's trying to get her in the car. She spits in the officer's face. Now, where we're from, that's an assault charge. That's an issue. In a law enforcement capacity, you're going to probably do something else. And in this case, I would probably put a spit hood on them. They're going to be more secured in the vehicle. If it were me and I had to go find a spit hood somewhere, like I didn't have one, and then I had other officers there, I'm going to take their face, I'm going to pin it away from me, hold it there, and wait for the spit hood.
Mm-hmm.
When the spit hood comes up, we're going to throw it on their face, and then we can start to kind of address things. I'm going to still hold or have somebody hold their face into maybe this like kind of cage divider thing. Keep it, hold it there so this person doesn't try to bite me or do anything weird while we're seat belting.
Mm-hmm.
And the seat belt is such a pain in the ass in patrol cars.
In my face. Right the side of my door, spit hood.
All right, so he's got one. So he's got a spit hood. He tells somebody to go get it. Passenger side of his door. So now he's trying to put the seatbelt on. Again, not the way I would do it. Not saying he's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but we are going to see a use of force, and we're going to talk about, is it reasonable and appropriate?
You want a video charge? You better stop it. No. You did. That's sad. You spit on me. I've always been nice to you.
I didn't spit on you.
Absolutely did.
No, I didn't.
Well,
You spit.
Yeah. So she spits in his face again after being like, I don't know what the hell's, she's on drugs or something, I would imagine, right? Or mental illness or something. But she spits on him again, and his response is a slap in the face. Now, the department categorized this as an open palm strike.
okay.
I would call this like a bitch
slap.
A bitch
Spit
slap.
on me. I've always been nice
Watch
to
it again.
I didn't spit on you.
You. Absolutely did.
Because it's not like palm strike. Okay. It is like, hey. And then he like points at, hey, look at me, pay attention to me.
No, I didn't.
You spit on me.
Yeah. You listen to what I'm telling you, bitch. That kind of like the feeling I got.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a handcuffed prisoner in a patrol car. Did she spit? Yes. Did she commit an assault? Yes. Is it reasonable and appropriate? You guys can't see her face. She's like, what do you think?
I mean, I don't like it.
I will tell you, I don't think it's reasonable and appropriate. I don't often trash cops and different things, but if he had done a strike
And held her head.
against the thing like I talked about, and there's another video, it's a very huge cop, and same kind of scenario. They're like kicking and doing a bunch of things, and I think he's calling them some racial names and whatever, and the cop like goes, "Bwah," and like strikes him to turn his head away so he doesn't spit on him or whatever. That's reasonable. That makes sense to me. You've already tried to spit, and then for the second time, I'm directing your face away, pinning it somewhere. I'm going to stop trying to seatbelt you. And I am certainly not going to teach you a lesson because you're a dumbass and you're not going to listen to a word I say anyway. And when you get out of jail, you're not going to probably remember any of the great advice I gave you. Don't spit on me. So I think that probably is not very reasonable and appropriate. Did she deserve it? 100%. 100%. She deserves.
But she's also a handcuffed prisoner in the back of your car.
Right.
And it's like the hours upon hours upon hours of arrest control. When have you ever been taught, hey, just slap a bitch?
Open hand slap in the face. Right.
Again. See what happens. Absolutely
Especially
not.
because she might be possessed by demons.
Might be.
She spit on you. Now you got bad on all the
Yeah, so the video pauses, but it shows the spit is on the side of his head, and he's getting his spit hood handed to him. So
hey, but great news. She didn't spit in your mouth. So
she
that's
didn't
good.
she didn't spit.
Or your eye.
Now, is there potential issues for bloodborne pathogens, different things? If he knew she was HIV positive, she knew she was, yes. But does it warrant a slap in the face? I don't think so.
Well, and ACT, arrest control. Slapping somebody is not using control or gaining control of somebody. That's just, you're pissed off and want to prove a point.
Right. It is your way of saying, hey, listen to me. And, smack him. Hey. And he even goes. Ch-ch. And if he didn't do the hand and listen to me, bitch, I'm going to tell you, if he had just gone pop and pushed her, even like this, smacks her across the face and pushes her head, and then just, hey, give me that hood, blah, 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 and starts going into, getting her secured, that'd be fine. But I think it's hey, listen to me, bitch. That just doesn't fly as reasonable and appropriate to me. Mm-hmm. So.
It's like the people that punch the prisoner in the jail and the handcuffs.
Do they deserve it? Probably. They're probably complete assholes. Somebody earlier on probably should have punched them in the face, but they didn't. And they became shitty adults. Well, they became shittier adults. Somebody probably 18, 19, 20 probably should have smacked them in the head. Early on, she probably should have been smacked in the head. Hey, you're being a dumbass. You need to turn your life around, whatever.
Right.
Didn't happen. That's not your job.
Right. Somebody should have bitch slapped that meth pipe out of her hand.
Probably. But anyway, now we're going to go to Hartford, Connecticut. Now,
see a lot out of Connecticut.
No. And this is a crazy story. So it is a sister calls 911, says, hey, my brother is having a mental health crisis, has cut himself, is armed with a knife. When the officers arrive, they find him outside and they make contact with him. And then this happens. It's kind of a long video. We're going to watch the whole thing because it all goes into the use of force.
Drop the knife first.
So for our listeners, this is an officer talking to the mental health individual who's outside the house on the porch with the knife in his hand, and he's trying to get him to comply. He's trying to keep a little bit of distance, putting the vehicle in front, kind of between them. Then he puts the snow bank kind of between them.
Drop the knife.
He's doing a good job. That lady is not helping.
No.
I'm not going to shoot him. Drop the knife. Drop the knife.
Now this is like Night of the Living Dead. Slow sauntering towards officer. Does that mean he can't run?
Please.
No.
Drop the knife.
He may be able to sprint. We have no idea.
Could be a ruse. Ooh, I don't like that transition.
I don't like the gun and taser in hands at the same time. But he's putting the gun away, and now he's going to try to use the taser.
Drop the knife.
There's the taser charging.
But he's wearing layers.
Lots of layers. We've talked about taser dependency, effectiveness of tasers. So he's hitting him with all the probes. It's doing nothing. He is an overweight guy. Other officer shows up.
That guy. Position better, man.
He's trying to get distance. The taser's still not working. Multiple probes.
Crossfire.
Now he's chasing the second officer around. So now the gun comes out.
Drop the knife.
And I think it's very important to realize this is where things changed. But this is not factored into what ultimately happens. But he's tried the taser. He's tried verbal commands. He's tried the CIT route. He's tried all these different things. The guy is clearly a threat, charging at the other police officer who has a gun out. What does this officer do? Puts his taser away, takes his gun out, points his gun at him. He is recognizing that this guy is becoming a lethal threat to the other officers. He's not going to shoot him. That's going to come later. But it's good to note that even these two cops thought this was a deadly force scenario. They both had guns out. Maybe they didn't fire, but they still recognize that this is a lethal. They didn't put the guns away and start using their hands. They didn't get their batons out. They recognize this as a lethal force scenario. And that's going to come into play hugely when I talk about the outcome of what happened with this. So they're going to try to talk him down. The family's yelling at him. They're all trying to talk him down. You have 3 police officers now, really close, 2 of them.
Really, that's what I was going to say. I don't like that spacing.
And I think they're kind of close because the citizens, the other people, are kind of close.
Yeah, there's like a whole audience out there.
And you kind of don't want to be too far away. You're not going to be like calling across the street to him because it just leaves him open to be a threat.
Drop the knife.
You have too many people giving commands. You have too many people trying to talk to him. This guy puts his gun away. So he's trying to be like the not threat to try to talk him down.
Right.
Hey.
Got a terrible backdrop.
Right. If this officer has to shoot, he's going to shoot through him and hit several people behind. The other officer is probably the most clear shot and has no gun out. The other officer, I can't really tell from this still, but they seem to be pretty clear too.
Drop the knife. Come on, baby. Come on.
Come on, baby.
Right. Like I said, the officers recognizing this as a lethal force kind of potential. Notice they've told this guy probably 142 times, drop the knife. He is not listening. He's not doing anything he's told. He's not listening to commands. The taser was ineffective. You could try to OC him. You could try to 40 millimeter. You could try to do other things. He's not following commands. Whatever his problem is, mental health, drugs, whatever it is, he is not going to listen to your commands. It's pretty clear there's been no progress. So now guns back out on this guy.
Drop the knife. You're good.
It's kind of like
Good job, Stevie.
doesn't want his gun out, wants his gun out.
Stevie, come on.
All 3 have guns out.
Yeah, guess I need Stevie.
Nobody has a rapport because he's not listening.
Just drop the
So I don't
knife,
blame
Stevie.
them at all.
Right.
Okay? Stevie, drop the knife.
Do we have another taser?
I've said it before, departments, everybody should have tasers, everybody should have 40s, everybody should have rifles, everybody should have vests, helmets, shields, spend the fucking money, buy the gear. Wouldn't have made a difference here, I don't think. But somebody's responding to help that has a taser. But what we're going to focus on is officer coming in now. So lights and sirens, appropriate response to party armed with a knife. We're at gunpoint. He's going to get out, approaching from the top there.
Drop the knife, Stevie. Stevie, drop the knife.
This officer's got his gun up. He's giving him commands too.
Stevie.
Now, 3 officers here, no progress. 4th officer shows up, recognizing that there's no progress, is giving commands, also is getting no progress.
Well, now that guy's coming right at him.
Now he's advancing, and you can see the knife sticking out of his hand, it looks like, as he's advancing towards this new officer just showed up.
Stevie. Steve. Steve. Stevie. 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 Stevie.
Yeah. So he's advancing on the officer. Officer shoots after a dozen drop the knife
Yeah.
commands, to include one that says, if you don't stop, I'm going to shoot you. So now there's like a kind of, this is the only option I have. If you don't listen, this is what's going to happen. And that's
Right.
what happens. And that's the end of the clip. Now, before we get into, was it reasonable and necessary, let's talk about what happened. This officer here that arrived, so the last guy, was charged.
What?
He was arrested. He was charged for the murder
Of Stevie?
of Stevie there. And he shot him 9 times or whatever. And they said, oh, he shot him on the ground. He doesn't. So he's shooting as he's going down. He's shooting him. So he hits the ground. There's no more rounds. This body camera kind of like goes off over here, kind of looks away for whatever reason. And then the clip ends. And this was released by the Connecticut Office of the Inspector General. The Inspector General charged, or at least recommended charging the officer. The mayor of Hartford fired almost immediately the officer, and then they charged him. Now, what we know about the laws, we don't know Connecticut law, but we know that every 50 state has reasonable and appropriateness. We've also, you and I, have seen the Las Cruces video. And if you haven't seen that,
It's a hard watch.
I'd say go watch it, but I don't recommend watching it. It is the worst video I've ever seen, but
And heard.
it is appropriate for this discussion. So I highly recommend, that you go find this video, type in Las Cruces officer stabbed, and you're going to see that bad guy was further away than old Stevie here, managed to pull a knife kind of somewhere in here. He had his arms kind of crossed, and then he pulls his knife out, charges at the officer. The officer turns to kind of like gain some distance, kind of flee a little bit to gain some distance, and probably draw his firearm, trips, falls. Bad guy jumps on him, stabs him multiple times in the neck, kills him. He doesn't die right away. There's
It's awful.
30 or 45 seconds of him kind of gurgling and choking and whatever else. Some citizen sees this, shoots suspect, kills him. But we have a short distance here, and we have bad guy advancing on the officer. Bad guy here wanted only one thing: to be shot.
Mm-hmm.
So, knowing what we know, knowing reasonableness, appropriateness, our laws, and then other videos that we've seen before, what are we thinking about that clip?
Reasonable, appropriate. I mean, what pisses me off is that you have these inspector generals and mayors making these decisions that to charge this person, fire this person. And that's why, like, the other officers on scene aren't, they're not exerting the reasonable and appropriate force that they should have from the beginning.
You mean like the officer that had his taser out, attempted to use the taser, it failed, and when he was advancing towards the other officer, pulls his firearm out.
Right. And he was advancing on the other officer and even the initial officer at some point. And
chasing him around the car,
they
over
could
the
have,
snowbank. Yep.
exerted lethal force being advanced on by a knife, but they didn't. And this went on a really long time. So then you have this fourth cat show up and he, sees what's happening. He shows up in sirens. There's no way this guy doesn't know he's a cop. Lights, sirens, uniform, has his gun out, stop or I'm going to shoot you. He doesn't stop. He gets shot. All of that reasonable, appropriate. There's a whole crowd behind him. He could have stabbed, that cop and then gone on a frenzy. So what happens if he then stabs all those other people and they're like, oh, those officers should have shot him.
So.
But it's okay to go after a cop, but not.
I will say 150% reasonable and appropriate. The mayor and the attorney,
Inspector
General, whatever the hell.
Inspector Gadget.
General, whatever, should piss off. I think the both of them need to be sued by this officer. So this officer is going to go to trial, charged with manslaughter. He's going to have to go through all that. He needs to win that. Once he wins that, he will. Because there is a reasonable and appropriateness to the use of force, and it's reasonable and appropriate for him to say, I was in fear for my life. I showed up. I didn't really know what was going on. And so what was going on is irrelevant. And the fact that it went on for like 10 minutes is totally irrelevant to his feelings, because he shows up, he orders the guy to drop the knife. The guy advances
Several
towards
times.
him. Right. Advances towards him. He thinks he's going to become Las Cruces officer number 2 and shoots him. Reasonable and appropriate all day long and twice on Sunday. And after he wins the case, needs to sue the mayor's office for wrongful termination. He needs to sue the police department for wrongful termination. He needs to sue the Inspector General's office, all that stuff, DA's office, whatever, for wrongful imprisonment, wrongful, being charged, whatever the charges are.
Sue him for everything.
Sue all these people, win millions of dollars, sue for their job back. And then what I would do if I were him, I'd show up on day 1, get all my back pay for everything that I lost. And when I do the roll call, and when they say, okay, you guys are going down on the street, here's your assignments, whatever, I'd walk in the sergeant's office, say I quit. And I would never work for that department, ever. Now, when this happened, 60 some odd officers showed up at his court case and was supporting him. The union made a statement, said they completely disagree with the charges. So everybody's backing this guy, it seems like. I don't know about those officers on the scene, but whatever. It is a person having a mental health crisis, armed with a knife, already cut themselves, advancing towards cops. He should have been shot way earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I am all for CIT. I'm all for, trying to not shoot somebody. I've been in a situation where a guy had a gun. I did not shoot him. Someone else shot at him, but I didn't shoot him. If he had made any movements, if it seemed like, his face, he was making a different gesture, something, he was like scared because I ambushed him. He came out of a door and I was aiming at him and yelling at him that we were the police and dropped the gun. And he froze. But if he had done literally anything, if he would probably coughed, I may have shot him in fear for my life and everybody else. And there were several of us aiming at this guy, and only one officer out of several of us fired. So he has to justify his reason for use of force,
right?
Deadly force. But in this case, Hartford, the first officer tries to tase, doesn't work. Second officer arrives, close, way too close, gets out and is facing down. Oh crap! Pulls his gun. The other officer transitions to gun,
which is weird.
He's aiming gun at him, but then starts to lower it and whatever. Immediately could have shot him. 100% lawful, reasonable, and appropriate.
You don't have to say Stevie dropped the knife X amount of times.
You don't. Remember, our justification for deadly force says when it's possible, when it's practical, reasonable, whatever, to use a lesser amount of force. If he has a knife and he's advancing towards you, that is not the time for me to try to say, please, man, why don't you drop that knife and we can go talk to somebody? Or let me try a taser. Oh, that didn't work. Let me try OC. Oh, that didn't work. Let me try a baton at close range while you have a knife. Let me try all these things, endanger myself and everybody else to avoid the ultimate outcome of which is reasonable and appropriate, deadly force.
Well, and I think, just because somebody's having a mental health crisis, that doesn't exempt them.
Right.
They can still be a deadly force.
Maybe even more so.
Exactly. They can still cause crimes. It doesn't exempt them. They don't get to break the law just because they're having a mental health crisis.
And I would say the guy that stabbed the Las Cruces officer was having a mental health crisis
100%.
Because he stabs him and the officer's dying. And he says some nonsense like, you're not even real. You're not even real. And then another guy shows up like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? You're not even real either. So clearly he was having a mental health thing where, he's not interpreting these people as real people and as just things I need to stab, I need to kill. And so I would say it may be even more of a threat if you're having a mental health crisis. Like this guy wanted to die. Now, if that officer didn't shoot him and he advanced on the officer and he gets close to the officer, if the officer didn't shoot him, he's going to think, why is this guy not shooting me? I need to up this. So now I'm going to take the knife and I'm going to go like this. And the officer still doesn't want to shoot him. So now I got to stab the officer to get him to shoot me. So again, maybe even more a threat, an unreasonable thought process going through his head of, I need to hurt and kill people to get what I want, which is please shoot me. And that's what he wanted.
Well, and then what happens if he did shoot that fourth officer if he stabbed that fourth officer,
right,
and he went down? Now you have these 3 cops facing the crowd, and their only option would be to shoot toward the crowd. And
I would have asked, if I was the law enforcement agency and I'm doing the debrief, doing the interviews, all that stuff, I would ask officer number 1, hey, what did you feel? Hey, I felt fear for my life, everybody else's life. That's why I shot him. Okay. Officer number 2, 3, and 4, as he's advancing towards this officer, he's got the knife. What is going through your mind? Well, we're still trying to talk to him. We're still trying to do it, but he's advancing towards the officer. Okay, cool. He goes to stab the officer. What would you do? We'd shoot him. Oh. So it's reasonable to think that he is advancing towards this guy. That guy is thinking, I'm about to be stabbed, so I'm going to use lethal force. You would have shot him too, thinking he's going to kill that officer. Mm-hmm. I would have interviewed those guys and asked them that question. Now, what they can do is call them as witnesses and do just that in the trial. And if the attorney is smart, they're going to put this officer on stand. Unlike Carmelo Anthony trial, where they did not put him on the stand, you cannot convey a mental mindset without the words of that person.
Right.
So they did not put Carmelo on there, therefore could not convey to a jury that he was in fear for his life. So they got to put this officer on the stand. He's got to testify. The attorney has to say, what were you feeling in that moment before you took the shot? And he's going to say probably just that. Fear for myself, fear for everybody else. I thought he was going to kill us.
Yeah,
he had a knife.
Coming at me with a big old butcher knife.
He's a deadly threat. I use deadly force. Reasonable and appropriate. And the jury cannot come back and say he's wrong. You can't tell someone their thought process is wrong when you look at things like guy with a knife advanced towards a cop, cops identified, like you said, uniform, car, sirens, all that stuff. 100% all day long, twice on Sunday, reasonable and appropriate use of force. So I'm very curious to see where that goes.
Yeah.
So thoughts overall?
Reasonable, appropriate, necessary to take those goddamn sunglasses off the back of your heads, guys.
Right. You're just going to focus on that for a while. Probably going to be hearing about that for the rest of the week. I don't do that. I wear sunglasses, and I did in the kind of the beginning of the episode there. I had my little sunglasses on,
on the
but
back of your head.
not on the back of my head. And not only do they, so I wear them like up here, right? You know, and I'm wearing a hat or something, and I might put them on top of the hat, right? Not only do they put them on the back, they don't push them all the way to the back like this. They turn them around.
Right.
You literally have to not only put it on the back of your head, like flip it over your head.
See, it's not just me, guys.
Around.
It looks stupid.
So you have eyeballs in the back of your head.
Your neck. It's weird.
Your neck nose.
You look weird.
Under your stupid neck nose underneath your sunglasses.
Sorry, not to take away from the seriousness of the episode, but
yeah,
gotta leave it on a light note.
There's some reasonable and appropriate use of force. Sunglasses on the back of your head is not reasonable or appropriate.
Or necessary.
Or necessary.
Or lawful.
Should not be lawful.
No.
It should be illegal to wear glasses on the back of your head.
But no, I liked this episode. This was a different change of pace than just
video clips.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes we do. We'll do a topic and we'll talk about it. We kind of did a topic on, I did. It was kind of pre you joining the podcast, but it was the ICE agent thing. And then we did like the canine thing. We kind of talked about, use of force with the canine and when it's searchable and doing, the law and how it applies, things like that. So
Yeah.
I wanted to do one of these. This is the longest episode ever. So now we're at like an hour and 30 minutes, but
we do it for you guys.
we do it for you. And it's like 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so I need to do the editing, upload this, get it out tomorrow. But yeah. So there you go.
All right. There we go.
Episode 23.
2, 3.
Yep. Next week's going to be 24.
Yep.
Doot, 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 doot. Should I do like the 24?
Doot,
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 doot.
doot.
The little timer or whatever. Ugh. And that bothered me. Your cooking show.
24 and 24?
Yeah, how they did like that. They did that.
But not really.
Not really, but they stole it 100%. But anyway, anything else to add before we
Nope.
ta-ta?
I don't think so. Other than bye.
All right, guys. See you later. Bye.